How's it flying, guys? Lance Corporalhawk30 here, and welcome to another Fat Files reaction. I do need to shanty back on to the main channel reaction, to the Fat Electrician reactions. But this is a little bit more currently prescient. A little bit more currently relevant. No tax on tips, even Trump and Kamala agree. Obviously referring to positions held by the primary candidates of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, which, by the way, spoiler alert, at the time of recording, is now the 9th, so we are 4 days removed from the actual election day, and 3 days removed from it being announced that Donald Trump won the presidency. So I'm assuming he's going to make a similar disclaimer, so before we get too far into this, I do want to make a disclaimer. I'm not a political commentator. I have my opinions on politics and who I would definitely prefer to have won this election. But I'm not going to be shoving it down anybody's throat because you don't come to watch this channel for politics. You come to watch to see how I react to certain things. So even if I may bring up something I agree or disagree with a politician on, like I agree, no taxes on tips, period, regardless of who thought it up, which, for the sake of clarification, that was originally a Trump thing that Kamala yoinked. Like, she basically swiped that idea and claimed it as her own too, so let's be fair, that is what happened. But either way, regardless of which candidate thought the idea up, it's a good one. No tax on tips, I agree. I completely agree with that. It's like, shoot, a customer's giving you money for you to have to bolster your income. Yeah, why would the government have any right to that? It was like, oh, we need a tax. No. Customer gave that money to me, not you. Stay away. I agree with that policy regardless of who came up with the idea, yada yada. And so I'm going to do my best to avoid getting political in this. That's not my intention, but I hate that I even have to give that disclaimer considering the current political climate, but it is what it is. But either way, Donald J. Trump, at the time of recording, has won the election. He's going to be sworn in as president January 20th. So, only question is, how long will it take him to implement that policy of no tax on tips? Hopefully soon. And I did hear from somebody that one of his policies was no tax on overtime, which would really be good for me because, yeah, there's usually 8 hours of overtime per week for me. So that would be very good for finances. I'd be able to pay the bills and get this house finished being fixed up. But anyways, like I said, I'm going to try to avoid being outright political in this. So we're just going to see what the Fat Electrician has to say about this. As always, link to the original video will be in the description. Please make sure that you've seen it before you watch my reaction to it. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and go.
Alright, full disclosure, this is just going to turn into unhinged yelling pretty much immediately.
Okay, that was not the disclaimer I thought he was going to make, but okay.
Today we're talking about not taxing tips. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, both presidential candidates have come out and said that they no longer want to tax tips. Now, is this blatantly political pandering to get votes because Nevada's a swing state and a ton of them rely on tips for income? Absolutely, okay? But unfortunately, pretty much every tax cut on the books is either pandering directly for votes or pandering to get donations to their campaign so that they can buy more votes. And while that's certainly not ideal, I thought it was cool because this is probably like the only time in my adult life that I can think of where two presidential candidates were on the same page about literally anything. And honestly, it just made sense because you've got Republicans, people on the right side of the aisle that generally speaking are just against taxes, period.
Yeah, agreed. But also, yeah, I can't really think of many instances where two political opponents were outright on the same page about much of anything. I can't really think policy-wise
of any kind. And then you've got Democrats or people on the left side of the aisle that, you know, they're more pro-taxes, but generally speaking, they want to tax richer people, not necessarily tax lower income people, like generally speaking, the people that are working for tips. And then for me, I was just excited I was going to be allowed to tip somebody that did a good job, knowing that the government wasn't going to step in like fucking Debo and take some of the money.
So y'all don't get nothing?
Hell yeah. Got about $200, huh, Debo?
I gotta buy $200.
Because that's absolutely ridiculous. In my mind, at least, a tip is basically a gift to that person, and you're allowed to give away like $17,500 a year to an individual as a gift and not have it taxed. So why the fuck does the government need to tax the $5 gift that I'm giving to the kid that delivered my pizza?
It kind of reminds me, this has been, I want to say about 10 years ago now, something like that. My sister was working at a waitress at a restaurant, and we found out from her that any tips she got, she had to split evenly with the other waitresses. If the tip is put in one of those jars, you know, one of those tip jars as someone's leaving, okay, I could see that being divvied up because you're not directly giving it to somebody, you're giving it in general, right? That I could see being split up. But if you directly give a tip to one of the waitresses, to the waitress who served you specifically, that tip should go to that waitress, don't you think? So that seemed a little unfair. This kind of reminds me of that a little.
So I was excited. I thought for like the first time in my adult life, the Republicans and the Democrats agreed on something and it was actually going to help out normal, working, everyday Americans. And then I wake up and the news cycle hits and every mainstream media outlet and every economist on the planet apparently thinks that this is an awful idea and they've got the dumbest fucking reasons I've ever heard of in my entire life.
It.
And we're going to get into those right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Rocket Money. It is pretty much your one-stop shop for all your financial needs. It helps you establish a budget. It monitors
certainly
your credit,
relevant
and it
to the
even lets you
conversation
track
at
your net
hand,
worth.
I believe.
But what I use it most for is helping me track and cancel all my subscriptions because I'm always trying to watch MMA fights. My wife's trying to watch Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever, and then we have to sign up for a different streaming service every other day because for some reason every MMA fight and every Caitlin Clark game is on a different streaming service for some reason. So you got to sign up for the 7-day free trial. Then you forget that you signed up for it, and then you're paying $10 a month for the next 10 years. In addition to that, all your other recurring bills, like your cell phone bill, your internet provider, your cable, Rocket Money will actually help you negotiate lower prices for those bills as well. So if you want to give Rocket Money a try, you can check it out at rocketmoney.com/fatfiles. I'm going to have that link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, the history of tipping. Tips have functionally only actually been taxed since like 2012. Buh! Actually, tips have always been considered taxable income. Buh! Yeah, I'm aware. That's why I use the word functionally in there because, yeah, they were technically taxable income since 1913 when the income tax was first established. However, they...
Which, screw Woodrow Wilson for that, by the way. Income tax is total bullshit.
Were never actually really taxed until about 2012. And that's because you couldn't enforce it, right? Because at the end of the day, laws only matter if you can actually enforce them. And back in the 1900s, all the transactions were done in cash, and you had to rely on that waiter or waitress or whoever to report the amount of tips they got to the IRS, which nobody on the face of the earth is actually gonna do.
No.
Buh! But it's still illegal, so you have to. Buh! Holy shit, I do not understand how people don't understand this concept. Okay, let me break it down for you a little bit more, all right? I live in Iowa, for example, and if I'm sitting down at dinner and somebody says, hey, will you pass the butter, and I grab some margarine instead and pass that to them, that's illegal in the state of Iowa. It is a misdemeanor to pass off margarine as butter, okay?
Hold on. Before he continues, I am legit. Is he screwing with us, or has he been legit serious? It's real. Yes, in Iowa, it is illegal to pass off margarine as butter, meaning you cannot advertise or sell margarine while claiming it is real butter, as this is considered a simple misdemeanor under Iowa law. I mean, to be fair, if you're advertising something as one thing, but then it's not that at all, I understand. I do understand there being a repercussion for that, but like something simple as butter? Iowans like their butter, I guess.
Who's enforcing that law? Fucking nobody. It's illegal in Arizona to put llamas in bathtubs. It's illegal in Delaware to whisper in church, okay?
First of all, Arizona, llamas in bathtubs. That was the first flashbang. And then whispering in church seems like such a minor thing.
None of that shit is getting enforced. Nobody cares. This is one of those times.
Ow! Christ, Jake, take it easy, man.
Now what?
Ow!
Jesus Christ!
Ow!
Jesus Christ!
Blue.
Jesus Christ, son of a bitch!
Now, that being said, the government
I assume that's Blues Brothers. I'm about to get crucified. I've never watched Blues Brothers. But then again, there's a whole laundry list of movies that a lot of people say are must-watches that I have never seen. For instance, this year, I only just this year saw Back to the Future. And I got this as a Christmas present before I saw the movie. I still have not seen 2 or 3. Sorry, that was just me reflexively ducking from an imaginary spear being thrown at my head.
absolutely does not want it to be one of those times. The government wants to tax tips really, really bad, and they've got a long track record to prove it.
They would tax the very breath of air you breathe every day to stay alive if they could.
In 1965, the IRS really tried to crack down on this when they came out and basically said, like, hey, you're required to report all of your incomes. It's taxable income, and you need to pay us taxes on it. But 1965, everybody was still paying with mostly cash, so everybody continued to just not listen. So the IRS could do literally nothing about it. So, still wanting to get that tax money, in 1982, the IRS came out and then told the employers, hey, we're going to require you to track your employees' tips, and then you report that back to us, okay? Multiple problems with this again. You're asking the employer to side with the government over their own employees, so that's probably not going to happen.
There's a lot of them that would not.
And
yeah, most of the time that ain't
happening.
happening.
It's still 1982. Everybody's still paying with cash, and if the employer's trying to figure out how much money in tips the employees made, they're just going to lie anyways, so it's still completely ineffective. So the IRS is just getting more and more pissed off. They realize that they really have no way to track this, which means they have no way to enforce it, which means there's people out there just giving money to other people and the government's not getting a cut, which absolutely infuriates them. So in 2000, they basically resort to scare tactics. They launched the Tip Alternative Reporting Agreement, which is essentially an education program for employers and employees, letting them know how dangerous it is if they don't report their tips. Again, completely ineffective. So then they launch another program in 2002 known as the Employer Tip Reporting Compliance Agreement, which was basically the same thing all over again. And again, it is completely ineffective. And then in 2007, they get a truly diabolical idea when they come out with the Small Business Work Opportunity Act, which basically goes to the employers and says, hey, you need to start tracking all of your employees' tips, and the more tips you report of your employees, we're going to turn around and give you a tax credit so that you actually make money the more your employees report tips.
They're paying small business owners to snitch, basically, with the promise of, hey, you might get more money for your business if you just tell us how much your people owe. Nobody can tell me that the IRS isn't secretly run by the mob. You cannot convince me. This sounds like some mob level shit. It really does.
Basically, they're taking the employer-employee relationship and pitting them against one another over who gets to make the money. Okay, 100% government playbook 101. Take two groups of poor people, get them to fight each other. Instead, they'll never realize that you're the one being the asshole. Okay, makes perfect sense. They do it all the time.
I say, let them fight each other, or we lay back, watch, have a drink, play some wagers. Hey!
So this is where reporting on tips did start to go up quite a bit because some employers were in fact willing to sell out their employees. However, a lot of them still weren't willing to do that. So then in 2012, the IRS finally came out with the Attributed Tip Income Program, which is basically the IRS saying, hey, it's 2012, most people are paying with a debit or credit card, some electronic form of payment, which means that you now have a digital record of them receiving that money, and we're going to legally require you as the employer to report that information to us.
Gotcha.
And this is where tips really functionally started to be taxed, because even in modern times, if you tip with cash, they can just put that in their pocket and nobody really knows. But the vast majority of people tip on the receipt with their debit or credit card, and now there's an electronic paper trail, and they have to end up reporting that to the IRS, and then they do have to pay taxes on it.
Thanks, Obama.
So look, I'm not a tax expert.
He did it for me. Because yes, Obama was president during that time period. Thanks, Obama.
I'm not an economist. I'm an electrician that just likes to point out obvious shit. So I figured we've only functionally been taxing tips since like 2007 to 2012, however you want to look at it. I remember when I was a waiter in 2008 in high school, and my boss had to pull me aside and be like, hey, just so you know, our company's going to start reporting all the electronic tips to the IRS, so you're going to have to pay taxes on that on the end of the year. Just be aware, because I worked for a major chain restaurant and they were willing to sell us down the river. So I just figured, like, we've only been taxing this thing for 10 years. In reality, reality, what's it gonna hurt to just not tax these guys, right? Because if I end up ordering a pizza during a snowstorm and some 19-year-old kid in a clapped out Camry comes through, I want to be able to give him a $20 bill in cash as a thank you and not have the government be involved, right? I just want the authority and the agency in my life to be able to do nice things for random strangers and not have the government demand a cut. That's all I want. But apparently I'm wrong, because every single mainstream media outlet started putting out news articles and videos explaining in detail why this is a horrible fucking idea, and all of the economists agree. And then you actually read the articles or you watch the interviews with economists, and they have the dumbest fucking talking points on the planet, to the point that it's actually insulting to your intelligence.
The IRS won't have the funds to crack down on people that skipping the tax, that not paying the taxes. We can't tell this person has an offshore account because they're not reporting on it. Shut up!
So the first argument is, if we don't tax tips, it's going to end up costing the government.
Just stop wasting money, asshole. To the government, just stop wasting money on stupid shit. Quit wasting money on dragging out projects that take 3 months that maybe realistically only need a month.
Between $100 and $150 billion over the course of the next 10 years. So where are they going to recoup that money from, right? Because you have to go and get that money from somewhere else if we're not going to take it from the waiters and waitresses and delivery drivers.
Where do you get the revenue to offset that? Because it's also apparently going to advance the insolvency date of Social Security's retirement trust fund by over a year.
Now, at a glance, that almost sounds like a mildly coherent opinion if you don't think about it whatsoever. I mean, it's so egregious that
explain
one of two
how
things
it's
is
bad.
Happening. Either they're just
Explain it
blatantly
to the
lying
idiots,
and they know
Nick.
that you're dumb, or two, there's this like phenomenon that happens where you become so well educated that you've been detached from the rest of normal society outside of academia for so long that you no longer have any common sense. And I think that might actually be what's going on here. Now,
Yeah, it's like Elon Musk said once. I believe it was him that said this. Just because you have an education doesn't make you smart. You can have a person that's got a master's degree, total idiot in certain scenarios, versus you can have a redneck that never went to school at all, show you the right way to get your truck started when it's been dead for a week. Vice versa, there's different levels of mental strength.
Now look, again, I can't stress this enough. Not a tax professional, not an economist, just a guy. But hear me out. What if we just spent less fucking money? You know, like what if we
like I
bought
said,
and gave away a few less fucking missiles to other countries? Like, I feel like that's a good compromise.
No, I don't think I will.
No? Okay, we'll just move right on to the next argument then.
There aren't a lot of tipped workers in America.
According to economist Ernie Tedeschi, tipped work accounts for just 2.5% of all employment.
Are you retarded?
Cool, I understand that most people aren't paid in tips, okay? I'm not rooting for this plan because I think it's going to change the world.
You really think only 2%? Really? Yeah, that guy's a retard.
On a grand scale, I'm rooting for the plan because I should be allowed to give the fucking delivery driver $10 without the government stepping in like the mafia and demanding their fucking cut.
It's been 24 hours. Got my money?
Yeah, I don't have it, sorry.
Well, all right then. That's good, OJ.
And then the next thing they go on to say with this argument as well, it could be really hard on businesses like restaurants because now the restaurant owner has to deal with the fact that some of his employees just got a tax cut and the people in the kitchen didn't get a tax cut, meaning the waiters effectively just got a raise and the cooking staff didn't, and then people might get mad and quit and it could end up ending their entire business. And this is the part where they're actually insulting your intelligence, right? I mean, you expect me to honestly believe that...
At this point, I just have no patience for people that make stupid... That's just so... It's like, tell that to my face, and then tell it to the shotgun that's pointed at your knee, and see which one looks smarter in this moment.
An entrepreneur that's smart enough to run a fucking business is going to have the government approach them
I don't know
and
if
be
that
like,
made
hey,
sense
I'm going to take
or not,
less money from your business. And the entrepreneur is just like, fuck, this is going to put me under. Having more money is just fucking, I can't do it. It's not manageable.
I haven't cried like that since Titanic.
Okay, look, controversial opinion. I'm so hardcore capitalist that I wholeheartedly believe that if your business goes under because the government steps in and says, hey, I'm gonna quit fucking over some of your employees. Literally, I'm gonna add more money to what your employees are receiving on a daily basis, and that's what fucking puts you out of business. I don't care, because you suck at being an entrepreneur and you deserve to go out of business at that point.
At that point, it would 110% be the entrepreneur's fault and not the fault of the government. Because, like, dude, if you can't stay above water after the government stops stealing money from your employees, then the problem wasn't the fact that the government was stealing money from your employees, it was the fact that you weren't good at your job.
Encourage the competition, because I know there's other people out there that if the government stepped in and said, hey, I'm gonna take less money, they'd fucking figure it out. And the best part about this, that's not even the most offensive argument, okay? This is the most offensive argument.
So for example, if you took a delivery worker who delivered food, they probably get tips, and so they would qualify for this tax benefit. If you took a delivery worker who delivered packages, they usually don't, so they wouldn't get a tax benefit. I can't think of a good reason why you would want to give a tax break to the person who delivers food, but not to the person who delivers mail.
Yeah, add my face in there too. Because one has a steady income. One has a set amount of money that earns more than people who get tips. If you are a delivery driver, you get a pretty steady rate of money. You get paid hourly and don't have to rely on tips. People who rely on tips usually don't have that great a starting wage. So the tips compensate for that. You fucking retard.
Okay, to compare a pizza delivery driver to a fucking UPS driver is absolutely fucking insane, okay? It doesn't make any sense. It's on par with being like, well, you know, we don't want to give CNAs a tax cut because then we're not going to give doctors a tax cut, and they're basically the same job. They both just walk around the fucking hospital wearing pajamas, right? No, one of them is paid significantly more than the other for performing more complex fucking tasks, okay? A UPS driver on average makes $27 an hour, with wages going as high as $43 an hour, on top of 18 paid holidays and sick days, 7 weeks of vacation, and industry-leading fucking healthcare. The pizza delivery guy's making $7 to $13 an hour with no fucking benefits whatsoever. If no tax on tips goes into effect, there's zero fucking UPS drivers that are gonna quit their job and go work for Pizza Hut. Also, that was actually the second most offensive argument. The most offensive argument is this.
Let's say I'm a salesperson that gets a commission, or let's say that I'm somebody on Wall Street that gets a year-end bonus. So I reclassify my commission as a tip, or I reclassify my year-end bonus as a tip. The employer helps out because they'll get a benefit, and so everybody wins.
Okay, this is blatantly taking advantage of the fact that most Americans don't really understand how taxes and income works, and they don't really know how to read their W-2, okay? You can't just go to your fucking employer and be like, hey, Jim, I thought about this. I'd rather my salary get converted from normal income to tips. Hardy har har har. That's not how any of that fucking works. And
No, it's
go to your
not.
boss tomorrow and be like, hey boss, I've thought about this a lot, and I would really appreciate it if on my W-2 you changed all the wages I've earned and told the IRS that those were capital gains, because capital gains are taxed far less than normal wages. You want to know what your boss is going to tell you? No, because that's fucking tax fraud. You want to know why? Because the IRS has very clear definitions of what earned wages are.
I have to sit for a minute. I'm already sitting, I know, but I need to lay down just to kind of absorb the sheer levels of fucking disingenuousness. Just, you want to know why? I just about guarantee why these people are so against that happening, because then that cuts into them somehow. I just about want to say it. I don't know. How many of these people help people file taxes every year? Because that's literally the only way I could see this being a factor, is if they're helping people file taxes, there's less that needs to be reported. That could be less I don't know, but this the sheer level of stupid and disingenuousness in the bull. Oy, oy, oy. Baseball bat to everyone. These morons.
And what capital gains are. They also have a very clear definition of what a tip is. From the IRS, tips are discretionary, optional, or extra payments determined by the customer that employees receive from customers. So a salesperson receiving a commission, not a fucking tip. So a CEO getting a bonus at the end of the year, not a fucking tip. What the one time the government is actually trying to give a tax cut to lower income working people, they come out swinging with the lies of, well, this tax cut's actually only gonna affect the rich because the rich will just fucking magically turn all their income into tips.
No,
it's
they
fucking
won't.
Nonsense. Okay, I'm calm. Now, to be completely fair and intellectually honest, there was one good argument that these economists managed to come up with, and that was that if you don't tax tips, you kind of end up incentivizing it in a way, and you're going to help prop up tipping culture even more than it already is. And a lot of people don't like tipping culture in America and wish it would just go away. Which, you know what, to be fair, actually a great argument, right? Because we all feel that way, especially recently, because now they fucking whip the iPad around when you're like picking up your own pizza. It's not being delivered. They still want a 20% tip. Get the fuck out of here, right? Don't get me wrong. I don't mind tipping. I'll tip the waiter, the waitress, the delivery driver. I'll tip my tattoo artist. I'll tip my hairstylist. I mean, my wife does my hair, so her tip's a little bit different. But the point remains, okay?
Get another flashbang in there.
I don't mind giving out tips when you're actually doing something. But at the same time, it is a weird cultural norm that seemingly only America has in modern times, and it is kind of dumb, and if we got rid of it, it wouldn't hurt my feelings one bit. However, the notion that the government should step in and tax it to decentivize tips is also complete fucking nonsense. Because guess what? If you actually do want to get rid of tips, one way to guarantee that you never ever achieve your goal is to allow the government to keep taxing them, making $150 billion, because then they're never going to get rid of it because they're making all the money off of it.
That's not fair.
You're learning. Uh-oh. Capital gains tax.
Okay, this is going to be a tough pill to swallow. You might not like this opinion, but guess what? If you don't like tipping, don't tip. It's 100% voluntary. You don't have to do it, okay? And guess what? If you get enough people that quit tipping, it'll just go the fuck away and the problem is solved, okay? That's the answer. The answer is not, I don't like tipping, therefore I'm going to root for taxes, okay? That's completely fucking absurd. Maybe if the government taxes me more, I'll finally get free healthcare, or public schools will be better. No, the government's never going to fucking make public schools better or give you free healthcare, okay? They're going to take your money, they're going to buy missiles, and they're going to shoot them at poor people in countries that you don't know how to spell. Okay, don't get this twisted. I don't like that. I'm not rooting for it. I think it sucks.
He's not wrong.
My point is, if you're advocating that the government should tax tips so that they can divert like a third of that money over to healthcare or education or whatever you think is important, hear me out. What if you just did that? What if you took all of the money that you were going to tip that person and you donated it to the local school instead? You could solve the problem way better than the government ever can. Quit letting the government and the news gaslight you into rooting for fucking taxes. And apparently on this instance, it's not even the government. Literally, the Republican candidate and the Democratic candidate are on the same page, and it's just the news trying to gaslight you into taxes, which makes no sense to me. Anyways, I gotta go before I give myself a heart attack. Sorry, this was so unhinged, but thank you for watching. Quack bang, out.
Oh, this is one of them things.
Seriously, am I the only person that feels this way? Because reading the news headlines in the comment sections kind of makes me feel like I am.
You're not the only one. I have to be careful how often I watch the Fat Files channel. It's a good thing the Fat Files channel doesn't have stuff uploaded as often as the Fat Electrician videos. Because it feels like the Fat Files is the channel that we go to whenever we feel like, I feel like ranting about something today. I feel like getting angry about something stupid today. That's what that feels like. I'm going to cease. I think it's a good idea to stop taxing tips. I think it's a good idea to stop taxing a lot of things in this country that don't need to be taxed. Flat out. I full-heartedly agree. Tips should not be taxed. That's a voluntary additional payment. That's a voluntary payment to a worker. Flat out. And that's at the discretion of the customer, not at the discretion of the employer or government. They should have absolutely nothing to do with that. Anyways, I'm going to stop there because I got to turn the AC back on. Yes, it's November. I live in Georgia. We're having a warm streak again before it cools down. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Like if you enjoyed. Comment what your favorite part of this reaction was and what your thoughts on tips being taxed are. I don't know. Subscribe if you're new and tap the bell to get notified whenever I upload videos so you don't miss any reactions, gameplay, or otherwise. Also, go check out my Discord. Link is in the description. Come join. We'll talk. Post memes, songs, videos, artwork. You can self-promote your own stuff and just have some fun. This has been Lance Corporal Hawk 30, signing off.